I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a
Hard Knock Life is back, and I'm still Keith Chow.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're actually recording this on Thursday afternoon, so as much of a sports podcast as this has turned into, we are not going to talk about NBA All-Star Weekend because it hasn't happened yet. When we're recording, it will have happened when you're listening, and I know we're a half sports podcast now. I will say it's the final score was probably 225 to 220 because nobody plays defense.
And that's taking the under.
So the All-Star game must be in the 200. So congratulations to the Western Conference for scoring 5,000 points in an All-Star game.
Wait, one point of that. It's not in Vegas this year, right? It's
in Indianapolis. The
now that
Super Bowl was in Vegas.
Right. Because lately the trend is all the things are in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but the NBA does not yet have a Vegas team. So
except for the WNBA team, which is very
the
good.
WNBA team, yes, does have the Las
Vegas. But yeah. And in the Bay Area, we're going to get a WNBA team at some point too. So, keeping the eyes on that, although I confess I don't really follow the WNBA, but I will at some point. But anyway, so it's in Indianapolis, which I thought was notably
the opposite of Las Vegas.
Yeah, I guess that's what I thought. I've never been to Indianapolis. I don't know, but it seems like, the opposite of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And the Pacers are excellent this year. I mean, we aren't going to talk about sports, but we are a little bit.
They're not. They're good. I don't want to say they're excellent. Tyrese Halliburton is really good.
He's excellent.
But yeah, the NBA. I'll say this about the NBA. I'm a little soured on the league, and I'm gonna put my get off my lawn goggles on right now. But I think this season we've had 7 60+ point scores,
and
I think we've had 2 or 3 70-point scores, individual scores.
Yeah.
And I saw a graphic recently, I think Embiid just hit it, and Luka Doncic hit 70 points this year. And then one night, Luka Doncic and Devin Booker had 60 points the same night. And I saw a graphic where from the time of Wilt Chamberlain to 2020, 2010 or something, there were 7 70-point scores.
Yeah.
In the history of the NBA. And in the last 5 years, there have been 7. So
you're grumpy about that.
A little grumpy about that.
The kids just scoring points all over the place these days.
Yeah.
Don't appreciate them. I mean, I hear that.
No, nobody plays defense. So
yeah, and and it has to do with a lot of things that someone wants to break those magic records at some point is my sense.
Sure,
so someone wants to undo those records. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. I mean, it reminds me of the thing in baseball when all of a sudden home runs were cheap.
Right.
For a while it was 61 home runs was untouchable. Then it was 5 different guys were yeah, we might hit 65, whatever. And that
not counting the steroid year, right?
Ties into steroids and all that stuff. And again, ties into the thing of what makes the game more exciting, more offense, right? So anyway, but I think it's cool if someone scores 80 or 105 at one point, especially if it's Steph Curry. And that's all I have to say on the on the overscoring matter.
Yeah, good point. And you're always be a homer is the best
the
best approach in any sports thing. Well, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but the other sports topic, of course, that is dominating the news is add Super Bowl parade to the list of things in America that you can't do without getting shot at.
Yeah, that was really fucked up. And I didn't follow it too much, except with that sort of chilling feeling of again, not even surprise, but again. And that's kind of just the messed up thing about it. But best wishes to everyone on recovery. That's pretty fucked up.
Maybe by the time this podcast airs, we'll have more information, but I don't think we know anything about the shooter or the motives or anything like that yet, right?
I don't know. And I'll say, whatever. I was in self-imposed media blackout, as I mentioned, because of not wanting to hear about the standard Super Bowl news and all sorts of other news. So haven't even been following that tragedy as much as I might ordinarily, which is fine for my own mental health. But no, we don't We don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it's just again, so it doesn't super matter. I don't know what new variation on I went out and tried to kill 10 people would be a new interesting variation. They're all not interesting. They're just due to easy access to guns, and that's how you kill 10 people, whatever your stupid ass reason is.
But anyway,
Anyway, comic books.
we're going to talk about comic book movies now. How's that transition?
Good segue.
You are going to see Madam Web. You have not seen it yet.
Yeah.
Do the
And
negative reviews scare you?
no, because like as I said, I stand by the reasons I might like it, whether or not, I knew the reviews were going to be bad. And I'll just say this about it because I still haven't seen it. I might go see it later today. I definitely want to see it more than I want to see Mobius or Craven. The hooks are there for an audience. Now, whether you made a good movie or not, that's a different question. But like, I didn't even want to see Mobius for any reason because it's just that dude again and the Spider-Man villain I semi care about. They hooked me with interest in seeing Anya Corazon and the different Spider-Woman squad. So that will stand whether or not it's the worst or the best movie ever.
1 week from today, let's report back and see if you still
yes,
feel that way.
We will. No, there's no way. There's no way that feeling will change. Because in the next week, the most I will say is it wasn't a great version of the Spider-Woman movie I saw. In no version do I say, oh, that Mobius movie actually turned out to be really good, or I really want to see that Mobius movie. Never, ever wanted to see the Mobius movie. Do want to spend money on the Spider-Woman movie.
And you hate that Jared Leto movie so much that you're constantly referring to the Owen Wilson character from Loki and not.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know how you. Is there an umlaut in there? I don't
There's
know.
a Morbius. There's an R in Morbius.
I thought that was a troll when they gave him that freaking name.
Mobius is the
Mobius
PA
is
guy.
now is Mobius also the French comic illustrator?
Yeah,
guy?
well, I think he's named Mobius after the Mobius strip and not the French comic book artist.
Okay.
But anyway.
So that's it Jared Leto, Morbius. Anyway,
yeah,
still
still
never seeing that. Still
sucks. That. It's funny. Last week, I think we were bemoaning the fact that so many movies just put "the" in front of the title, and that's now all of a sudden a new movie, like the Batman, the Suicide Squad. We finally got confirmation on the cast for the latest Marvel Studios project coming out next year. It's not just Fantastic Four; it is officially the Fantastic Four.
Great. Okay.
That's not. Yeah, I'm bearing the lead. The lead is we have official confirmation.
Yeah, your lead was they added the.
They added. Yeah.
What about the actors? Go on.
Oh, that too. It's not just the article. That's what I gravitated towards.
Yeah, that's great. That's nerdy. That's great.
Yeah. No, so now we know for sure it's Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Baccarat as first family of Marvel. And here's the thing, like I think we were talking recently about like not being entirely sold on Pedro Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, maybe this is the art, this is the magic of art. They also released this teaser poster with the announcement, this special Valentine's Day announcement, because they announced it on Valentine's Day. And it's an artist rendering, so it's not an official cast photo, but it's an artist rendering of the cast in very retro looking Fantastic Four outfits. And just the image of Pedro and Vanessa, the way they're depicted, at least in this drawing, kind of sold me on the whole concept. So I'm now
fully invested. Sold you on the whole concept?
I think it did.
In the retro sense, or
yeah. Well, so what I'm hoping this is what sold me. I think the vibe of the poster and the art direction is that it's a period piece.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty bold and makes sense. Fantastic Four, clear, like to me, the Fantastic Four, like, or at least my thinking of the Fantastic Four, my interpretation of the Fantastic Four is very much of like the space age. Okay. Like, I don't think I vibe with like modern interpretations of the Fantastic Four.
Okay, yeah.
Which is what the last two franchise films, were. Yeah. They were like modern versions. I think if they really are going for like the, Jetsons vibe that the poster clearly depicts, I'm kind of like all in on that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. And It's Matt Shankman directing, right? Who also did WandaVision.
WandaVision.
And WandaVision was well received. Again, we're looking a little bit at like Marvel going by what their focus research tells them, which is a little questionable. But let's say WandaVision's concept was well received, and yeah, so it looks like a Jetsony vibe, and it does play into the Fantastic Four's legacy because, in a lot of ways in Marvel, they're like the first family, the first team, the oldest one, the one most associated with that 60s vibe, like a sitcom-y family vibe, like the Jetsons or like WandaVision was going for, right? And to me, that begs the question. It's sort of like Captain America. It's like the one they have to do because you can't have a Marvel universe and never have Captain America or Fantastic Four, right? People have been complaining about this. But I wonder if that's people feeling obligation or whether they really want the Fantastic Four and like them. Like, do you really like the Fantastic Four? Or is it the completionist thing of like, well, we have to have them because it's the Marvel universe?
Yeah, I mean, I was never a Marvel guy, so like,
Right, okay.
it's insincere for me to say like the Fantastic Four is what defines Marvel comics. I understand intellectually why the Fantastic Four are important to Marvel. Like, but yeah, growing up, I never read a Fantastic Four comic.
Yeah.
Like,
See, that's
in my life,
yeah,
as a kid,
Yeah, and I prefer the Avengers. That's right, because they're old. Basically, something about the Fantastic Four came out and was very associated with the actual beginning decade of Marvel, which is the 60s, not the 70s or 80s when a lot of us picked it up, when they were already a thing and trying new things. It was, and again, if I'm not wrong, it was the new thing before the Avengers. Lee and Kirby were like, we should have a team. Isn't that weird idea that a whole family would all be superheroes? At the time, this was
mind
totally
blowing.
new,
Yeah,
right? That was totally new. Now it's commonplace, but then it was like a team and they're a family and they're all superpowers. That's crazy.
yeah. I mean, and they are the original. They kicked off the Marvel universe. Like, they
Yeah,
are the originals.
yeah. So you have to have them at some point. Now, my question is, how that's executed. And I'll say one disclaimer: I'm one of those guys who actually kind of like that second Fantastic Four movie with Teller
Oh, the fantastic,
and
the
and
fan four stick movie where
I
the
don't know
four
if there
is
was a
the.
the attached to that one or not. I
Oh no,
don't.
but I mean the four it was a four instead of an A, so it was like fan four stick or something like that, right?
Something
The
like that.
the
But
Michael B. Jordan
it had Michael
and
B. Jordan in it.
Kate
And
Mara.
I liked that movie up till the end. The end was very badly executed, but
Did
I
they
liked
make
a
two
lot.
of those too? Or is
No,
it just one?
they just first Fantastic Four they made two of, right?
Right,
And that one they made one of, and now they're making another one.
right.
But you will have to tell me who two of those actors are actually, because I don't know.
Of
Actually,
the new cast.
yes, I'm only very familiar with Pascal and Moss Backrack.
Vanessa Kirby is probably best known for, like, especially nerd audiences, for being in the Mission Impossible movies
Okay.
and not the Fantastic Four. Of course, she will be from now on
Yeah.
in the Fast and Furious films. I think Vanessa Kirby is in
Okay.
it as well.
Okay. Cool.
And what I like about her casting, I mean, she's a spitting image of Sue Storm. Like,
Okay.
that's really cool. But like, she's got the best last name for
Yeah.
a Fantastic Four cast member. I don't think she's related to Jack Kirby at all, but like, to have
Oh,
a Kirby play a
totally.
character in the
Well,
Fantastic.
did you see the joke on Twitter someone made or on the social medias that this is like the most money anyone named Kirby has ever made off of Fantastic Four, which is a mean joke, but it's probably has
Also accurate.
a lot of truth to it. But let's all remember that, yes, when Jack Kirby should be richer than Jesus and
Yeah,
Bill Gates combined if the world were a fair place.
right.
But
And so many other comic book creators of that era.
yeah. But anyway, that's neither here nor
That's
there
neither
because
here nor there.
we don't care about the money.
The other actor, the Johnny Storm actor, Joseph Quinn, I only know him from one thing, and that's season 4 of Stranger Things.
Okay.
I don't know if you're not a Stranger Things guy, but
Not a
he
big Stranger Things guy.
Eddie, and who was the breakout
Watch.
character of the most recent season of Stranger Things.
Okay.
That's the only credit that I know of his. I thought, like, even at the time, he's kind of, to me, the spitting image of like a young Robert Downey Jr. So it's weird that to have him
Oh.
in a Marvel movie, but
Okay. I have to ask you a superficial question. Is he thought of as hot? Is he thought of as a
I
hot
think
guy?
people think he's hot. I'm not.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
mean,
wait,
pun
do you
intended.
mean like attractive, or do you mean on fire?
The pun was intended, but I mean, when you're ready, I mean, I have a point to make about the Thing part of it because that actor I'm more familiar with. I
Yes,
think
Evan
you,
Moss Bacharach. We were actually texting about it the other day. He is
yeah,
my favorite cast member
yeah,
of the four because for nerd fans, he's I forget the name of the character, but he was the turncoat in Andor.
yeah, Skino or something like that.
And he was also Micro in The Punisher.
Yeah, totally.
But to me, he's my favorite character on The Bear. He's Richie
Yeah,
on The
right on.
Bear.
Totally.
And, and that's what I love him for. So the fact that he's, gets to, I hope he brings his Richie energy to
Yeah.
the thing.
He's also in a cool indie movie called Blow the Man Down, which I recommend to everyone. Probably in the, in the starting out indie side of things, but a really good movie. Blow the Man Down also has Ebon Moss Backrack. I'm gonna practice saying his name. I think I'm getting it. Yeah, I think he's an extraordinary actor. He's great in Andor. And I was making the social media rant the other day about the Thing. Okay, like the Thing is actually a really important character in the whole Marvel Universe setup. He's one of the most completely relatable, sort of in the way that the Hulk is like completely relatable and like everyone's got a rage monster inside them. It doesn't leap out at you, but the Thing is sort of central to the whole Marvel Universe idea. He's basically the guy who got superpowers, but they made him ugly, so they made him an outcast and an untouchable because his skin is covered with rocks. And he's and he's like this, tough New York guy. And he has this weird thing that he's best friends with this smarty ass, college guy genius who is, let's just say it, part of a beautiful couple. And the Human Torch is so fucking hot. I mean, physically good looking hot that he's been played in Marvel Universe by Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan. I mean, let's think about that. You have to be pretty hot to have been played. You have to be
Oh,
pretty fucking good
Michael B.
looking.
Jordan is another twofer.
Michael B. Jordan is another twofer. Yes, thank you. Yes, Michael B. Jordan could do it all. And he was good as the Human Torch, and people hated on it because, oh, black guy. But
Right.
he was awesome because and not because of this, but he's so handsome, it works. Because part of Human Torch, I'm getting to the point that part of the Human Torch's character is like he's like the hot dating, like on the prowl guy. So it gets back to the Thing. The Thing is the guy in the family who is an outcast and feels completely isolated, exacerbated by the fact that his found family are just fucking beautiful sitcom people. So they,
Well, and I think the other difference, like everyone else's superpowers are a gift, his is a curse. Also, everyone else's superpowers are essentially, you can turn them on and off,
right, right,
whereas his is always present. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, metaphor there too, that like he can't hide. I mean, the
right, right,
one of the iconic things about the Fantastic Four comics is that the way he hides or tries to like blend in is he wears a massive trench coat
right.
and fedora, but he's clearly a rock monster inside a giant trench coat. It's one of the things where like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of like a lot of people I think forget the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles phenomenon. It's kind of become its own thing, but
Mm.
it started out as like a parody of Marvel comics, right?
Yeah,
Like
totally. Yes.
Splinter for Stick and all that stuff, right? Like they were
Yeah.
the Daredevil, there's a lot of mutagen instead of the
Yeah.
whatever.
They had the Daredevil origin and also
Right.
reflected all these
But
other Marvel
the
things.
funny thing about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they walk around in giant trench coats and fedoras. That's clearly a nod to the thing, because to me, the
Totally,
most
yeah.
iconic image of the thing, like you can't have a thing story without him in this massive trench coat, right?
Yeah, because he's just
But
trying to
it's
get
also
it.
the ridiculousness of that because he can't hide who he is. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Like they can't turn off being turtles, so they gotta blend in when they're walking around. And so the thing. So the reason I harp on this is because I'm such a fan of that guy's acting, and he's good at these like sort of tortured,
Yeah.
morally conflicted, and maybe kind of halfway evil characters. I think if they lean into the Thing part and what makes it so essential to the Marvel Universe idea, just the outcast who also is blessed with power slash curse and feels like a nerd all the time, I think he's the guy who can do it. And we'll get a more interesting thing than we had before. And we didn't have bad actors as the Thing before. We had that Michael Chiklis guy, but they didn't. They made the mistake perhaps storytelling wise, that they didn't really focus on what makes the thing that people like about Marvel, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
that's
then
my
Chickless's rubber costume was a little
right.
doesn't age well in the
Right. And so we have poor,
modern comic movie.
poor Ivan is going to be like in 100 pounds of something or other, or maybe it's motion cap or whatever. But
Yeah, I think he's gonna be walking around set in pajamas. I think he'll
yeah,
be fine. He'll
he's
be
gonna,
fine, like comfort wise, but he may look ridiculous.
but he has the biggest acting challenge because he has to act through whatever, like
Right. Everyone else
piles.
will be looking well, and that's a perfect metaphor too. Everyone else will look normal. He's got to
Yeah.
walk around in polka dots.
Yeah. I believe he's the one who can pierce through that. And
Yeah,
I hope that's
absolutely. Well,
what the case is.
he
Yeah.
can give a performance through the CGI.
Yeah.
I think he's capable of like that Andy Serkis type
Sure.
performance capture.
Totally.
Because I did see one person's criticism, I forget who, someone on the internet, it doesn't matter, but their criticism was Ebon's too skinny to be the thing, and I'm like, dude,
That does not matter anymore.
there's a CGI that will be.
We passed over that whole problem.
I was like, I hope he bulks up to be the thing. I'm like, I mean, I get if you're thinking like if Ben Grimm is typically depicted as like this whole
Right.
kind of like you said meathead, but it's not, but Jamie Bell played him in the modern, who was Billy Elliot in the
Yeah.
famously Billy Elliot, and he just, as long as you're like a Brooklyn tough guy, it doesn't matter if you're
Yeah.
like,
And as
you
we know,
gotta
some of those
think
tough
that
guys
guy.
are not like beefy. They just have attitude.
Right.
I mean, I'm not the biggest student of how Ben Grimm is before he's the thing, before he gets cursed / blessed with that. But yeah, it wasn't the idea that he was physically strong. He just had that tough guy attitude. And then he actually became the ultimate tough guy, and that's what's sort of poignant about it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And also the other thing about the thing is he's got the most iconic catchphrase in all of comics.
you're right. He gets this. I forgot about that. He gets to say the catchphrase. Oh
Oh,
my
I
God.
hope he says it. I have the other
He
thing
has
said it.
to.
I feel like Chickless says it.
No, and in Fantastic Four, in Trank Fantastic Four, he does say it, but again, it's at the end part where everything is going badly filmmaking wise. So it's forced. So we have room for that.
Yeah.
And again, an acting challenge. Can you sell that line? Chris Evans did it.
Here's where I think
It's clobbering time. Okay.
I'm too online. Is that, this cast list has been leaked for months. Like we've known Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Eben Moss, Bacharach were going to be there. And so like when they made the official announcement, I saw another thing that I saw a lot of people like, we already knew this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, just because shit gets leaked doesn't. It's kind of almost like I wish the Wolverine costume didn't get leaked months ago, because if the first time we saw that Hugh Jackman's wearing the blue and yellow in the Deadpool trailer, it would have been a hell of a moment. But the fact that they hid Hugh Jackman from the trailer, it's almost like, well, we've already seen the guy completely head to toe. But anyway, when this announcement got made the other day, I saw someone on Facebook, and Facebook is not Twitter, right? People on Facebook are less plugged in online. Facebook is a lot of like, your old high school acquaintance that you just happen to be following.
Right.
And that person posted like, wow, I didn't know these people were cast. And it's like, oh, there are still people who are just not completely too, horribly online like I am.
Yeah, no, I wasn't following enough to know that those were the contenders. So there. So yeah, maybe you are a little online geek.
I need to get offline.
But but it's just like, what do you personally, what do you want out of this spoiler reveal loop? Because we've talked about this before, and it's like, it's self-defeating. It's like, do you want to know or you don't? It seems like you don't want it both ways.
Well, no, it's a good point, because like, the pop that you got when you see Hugh Jackman in the leaked photo, was like that. I think people who complain like me, like, oh, I wanted that moment when I watched the trailer rather than randomly scrolling through Twitter 2 months ago.
Yeah. Well,
just don't scroll through Twitter then, right?
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Yeah, because there are people just, I'm not even saying spoiling, but leaks are part of our media journalism business. And if we get one, we have to leak it or we have to report on it, because that's the job of media journos.
Internet speculation.
Yeah, if it acts as a spoiler and upsets your experience of the movie, then yeah, you really just don't use X. Anyway, which is you shouldn't do anyway at this
Well,
point.
yeah,
But
but
yeah.
it also goes back to what we were talking about a couple episodes ago around nostalgia, right? Like, you can't
Yes.
go back to those times of like, you know, being surprised by like either being surprised when it happens on screen, or even like the way things used to leak before, where the internet, where camera phones. See, that's how old I am. I'm calling them camera phones, right?
Right,
We're not
right,
ubiquitous.
right,
Like it took effort to find the leaked photos of
right.
you know, Heath Ledger on set of The Dark Knight or whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
They sure as hell were not in 4K resolution.
Right. You couldn't, and it was like if anything, it was like a little blurry purple thing that might be Heath Ledger.
Right.
And it's also like to combat a lot of that, particularly like Marvel things and Disney things. They just shoot everything in the volume and you don't see it. So like that shit doesn't get leaked. But
Right.
then when you watch it, you like, oh, they shot this on a soundstage in the volume. Like you kind of, if you want to have movies still shooting on location outdoors,
Hmm.
you can't have it both ways. To your point, right?
Yeah,
Like,
just stop stalking with your phones, people. And anyway, but speaking of nostalgia,
yes, great transition. The other Marvel thing that got released last week is another trailer. It's funny that like these things could have been part of the Super Bowl, but I guess maybe the Super Bowl is not the same, but maybe it is. There was a teaser trailer for
I think they were
the
being smart. My theory is they got smart and they realized not the Super Bowl, but Valentine's Day is just a couple days after. Make it on Valentine's
yeah,
Day.
that's a good point.
Because
So,
Valentine's Day, people have a lot of feelings. And, on Super Bowl day, they have a lot of feelings, but they're about sports and they might not be as oriented towards, oh, great, the Fantastic Four. On
yeah.
Valentine's Day, people are like, especially lonely bastards like me, in particular, are just like, oh, I want to see something that'll, give me a little spark of, oh, an X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, that's a good point. And just one last point about the Fantastic Four. I think
yeah, yeah.
you alluded to it. Like part of it is a love story, like the
Yes.
Reed Sue love story,
Hmm.
or the Reed Sue Namor, triangle.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they,
Very lovey-dovey story.
I did also see someone comment the fact that Sue has a fetish for Latinos because Pedro Pascal is playing Reed Richards and Timmy
Yeah,
Porta is Namor. So
that's
that
that's interesting. I don't think we'll be exploring that aspect too much, unless we also want to explore Star Wars fetish for Latinos. I'm not even going to anything that starts involves the words fetish and Latinos. That is really outside of something I can talk to.
yeah.
Um,
X-Men 97. We
X-Men
have a
90s.
trailer.
Yes.
Before we get into the new version, how versed in the original cartoon were you?
Oh yeah.
Because we are Gen X, and I feel like the X-Men cartoon was more a millennials thing.
Absolutely. No, based on our conversation last time about the different generations of where your nostalgia starts, I missed the enjoying the 90s X-Men cartoon because that was a period when I was trying to kick comics and be less of a nerd. So that's something I still sort of followed the X-Men, but I don't the window of imprinting did not occur with that specific cartoon. So
But
I
you
mean,
are familiar with that
I'm
cartoon.
familiar with it. I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with a lot of comics things in the 90s that I don't feel that strongly about. That's weird,
Right,
right?
right, right,
I'm familiar with a lot of things. They just are not imprinted in the same way.
right, right. No, same.
I think it's fine. It's funny that they put 97 in the title to so like hammer onto it. This is exactly the year of nostalgia we're going for, not the other years.
Yeah, 97. I was surprised it came out that late in the 90s. And which probably like because I am familiar. I think it helps that I have a younger brother who was going through it at the time. So like it
Oh,
was it was a little bit more distant, but it wasn't so distant that because I was like you in the 90s, I kind of rejected a lot of nerd stuff, at least outwardly, but maybe inwardly still secretly. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, bought well again, using my little brother as an excuse to go to the Toys R Us to buy the Star Wars toys. I
Yeah,
got for
nice. Yeah, that works.
but no, I mean, I remember watching the cartoons. One thing I like that was made clear to me watching the trailer for the reboot is that I had no idea Professor X died at the end of the X-Men cartoon.
I certainly didn't know that either. That was
So
new
I
to
was like,
me.
huh. That's why there hasn't been any, concept art of Professor X in this reboot
Yeah.
because he's dead.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about this but we're both familiar with X-Men, and I want to speak, generously, all inclusively here, I love that people love the X-Men 90s cartoon that I don't know about. I love that. I am not going to be provincial about my part
Gatekeeping.
of X-Men at all. That's great because it's not that different. It's not like it's a totally different kind of X-Men. It's just a different iteration, and we can,
And a
and I
different
can,
entry point, because I think for a lot of people, I mean, like the way Batman the Animated Series a few years earlier was a
yeah,
lot of people's entryway into Batman.
yeah,
The X-Men Fox cartoon was a lot of people's entryway into the X-Men. It was for me. Like even though I'm not 100% familiar with the X-Men cartoon, I did watch it. I remember watching those episodes even back in the 90s. And I remember like the theme song was iconic. I know
yeah,
the theme song right away.
yeah, and pops up again in that Doctor Strange movie,
And
and
then
yeah,
yeah, and it pops up all the time. Whenever you like whenever you they were alluding to X characters in the
right,
MCU, they would play the riff a little bit. But again, I wasn't deeply invested in the cartoon like a lot of people apparently are. Like seeing Mike's write up on the Nerds of Color about
hmm,
the X-Men 97 trailer, it's almost like, oh wow, this really like people people encountered things that, like to your point, when they were younger than us and really imprinted themselves on these things that by that point we were already like teenagers, late teenagers, early 20s almost, that we didn't give a
hmm,
shit for. So
yeah. And let's remember also, it's built into the X-Men concept that it'll always be the one reaching out to the young punk rock outcast feeling generation. It's more built into the X-Men concept than, say, Fantastic Four. And so again, just a general thing with love, I'm on the ground, I meet people who are 10 or 15 years younger than me and they're a completely different stripe of nerd than I am, if they're a nerd at all. There are a lot of people who just aren't nerds at all, but they love the X-Men. They
mm.
talk about, oh, I like Rogue, I like Jubilee, I like Nightcrawler, and they don't know shit about any other frickin' Marvel thing except they love that X-Men cartoon. So
Mhm.
for that, great. Great. Nothing wrong with that
I mean, I
at
almost feel
all.
like the cartoon is what made Jubilee such a popular character. Jubilee wasn't that
Yeah, yeah,
much of a
totally.
character in the
Jubilee's a weird
comics
one. Yeah.
until the cartoon.
Yeah. She's a special case.
And it's interesting as two Asian American guys, like for the longest time, Jubilee was one of and specifically Chinese American guys.
Yep.
Jubilee was one of the only Chinese American comic book characters because she was specifically Chinese American. Like her backstory is she's
Yeah.
from Southern California, and not because all the Asian characters in the '90s were always exotic.
Yeah.
I used to do a thing in my presentation where like where I would speak to colleges about like comics and stuff and Asian American representation in comics, and I had a slide presentation where I would put up on the slide. It was like Silver Samurai. Do you remember the character she wasn't she wasn't Marvel. I think she was
Yeah.
Dark
I'm not
Horse.
sure I do.
And then there was Kabuki, another like indie
Hmm.
comic, and Sunfire. Like all of
Yeah.
the Asian characters all had the Japanese battle flag for some reason on
Right.
their costume design because white guys just that's
Right.
cool,
They love
you
that.
know.
Yeah.
And so like, but Jubilee was different. Even in the '90s, she was Chinese American, specifically from Southern
Yep.
California,
Yep.
and that was part of her character. You could argue like it is stereotypical that her mutant power is fireworks out of my hands.
Yeah, she has some stereotypical things, but they are stereotypical for Asian Americans and not so much like she doesn't have like a
She was never
Chinese.
exoticized.
Yeah, if anything, she's just weird because her costume is like Robin, but for a girl. But that's another issue. Now, but in your talk in those 90s, I mean, did you ever discuss the issue of the other most 90s Asian X-Men problem weird thing that ever happened being Psylocke,
Oh, right.
who is not in who I believe is not in the cartoon. Someone correct me.
I don't. Yeah, she's not in the cartoon.
Maybe she appears as in an episode or something,
Maybe,
but
but
she's
yeah,
not
she's
part of
not
the
a big part of the
core
cartoon.
team.
But she's a big part of the '90s X-Men for sure.
Right. And the weirdest Asian thing ever as far as representation in X-Men space,
Yeah,
as she was, a fairly like aristocratic British gal, and they surgically morphed her into a kind of half Asian ninja. And
yeah,
everyone was just cool with that. Why? Because she was super sexy as the half
right.
Asian ninja. I'm just gonna lay it all out there. We've had enough time to deal with it. There's no real mystery. They liked her better because she was sexy Asian woman. So, contrast with Jubilee, who is Asian American and has, let's say, room for growth there as far as the Asian American space, and Psylocke, which was a bit we like that version of Psylocke, but a bizarre orientalizing sexy Asian dragon lady trope.
Oh, for sure. But
And
to that point, has been adapted into the live action X-Men movies
right,
via Olivia Munn.
right.
And to this day, Jubilee has appeared in like so many X-Men movies, but has never, for whatever reason, caught on. And she's been played by like I think 4 different actresses in the various
Right,
X-Men.
right. Yeah. There was even that Generation X made for TV movie. Was she
Where she was white.
was she was
She
like,
cast
okay.
a white girl in Generation X.
Oh,
The
oh
TV
my
movie.
God. See, now, Keith, now that you started this, you got me really excited on the Asian American issues and the representation things because Jubilee is still the way to correct that wrong being Psylocke. And again, I like Psylocke, but go to Comic-Con, 1,000 gals, 1,000 very fit women cosplay as Psylocke, 3 people cosplay as Jubilee. Why? Because, well, her costume shows off how good looking you are, basically. It's a ninja sexy dragon costume. It's a good one. And again, she wasn't Asian in the first place, so that whole story is still weird, and now she's canonically Asian. Anyway, if we could address some of the problems that Psylocke caused with a new version of Jubilee, who lets us maybe have like an Asian American woman X-Men who's like a little bit normal or not a ninja.
Well, over
That's all I'm
Jubilee over
saying.
the last several years, she's gone through various iterations. She was like a vampire for a while.
Yeah, I
She
think that's
was
right.
a mom for a while. Like, I don't think they've ever like, and I don't know if this is true in the comics, but like again, as a result of the cartoon, like she and Wolverine had a like mentor-mentee relationship for a long time. I don't know if that ever was taken into the comics or if that's from the comic. I feel like it's more of the X-Men
Oh, it's in the comics
cartoon
too,
thing.
somewhat. Well, Wolverine's always got a cub. He's got several
Yeah,
cubs. And by the way, an Asian.
a little bit of an Asian fetish.
A
Yes.
little bit of a fetish for the Asian sidekick Wolverine has. That's not a secret.
Yeah.
Yukio, Jubilee, Armor. That one where Kitty Pryde becomes a ninja. Okay, the point here is that there were a lot of, as you well know, there were a lot of ninjas in the 90s. There were
Yeah.
a lot of characters became ninjas who you wouldn't think of as being ninjas. Back to the Turtles thing, but right, Turtles became
Right.
ninjas, which but yes, also a lot of the women characters became like the sexy ninja, and that's a trope that we should address while getting rid of it.
Well, you like the interest. Like I'm gonna jump into GI Joe for
Yeah,
a
sure.
second, but like GI
Right,
Joe was always like
perfect.
for a long time. GI Joe, the Real American Hero version of it, debuted in 1982. Of course, everybody created by Larry Hama, and for a decade there were 2 ninjas
Right.
in GI Joe, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, and then you can tell the demarcation between 80s GI Joe stuff and
Oh
90s
my,
GI Joe stuff because
right,
90s GI Joe stuff is the beginning of Ninja Force,
right, right.
where like it became to your point, everyone's a ninja now.
There were
So
like 9 Ninja GI Joes all of a sudden, right?
yeah,
And you had to get all the figures because they had cool, like weird colored
yeah,
outfits.
they're definitely weird colors and weird weapons and
Yeah,
everything. But yeah, it kind of like the novelty of the Arashikage storyline from the comics kind of just got
yeah.
beat to death when.
But again, let's be precise and exacting. Larry Hama did that great because
Oh, absolutely.
he's thoughtful about how to build out that story. And even though he is always under the pressure to like keep up with the toy line they want to do, he was like, okay, if I gotta write a story that there's suddenly 10 ninjas, I'll do it and I'll give each of them personality. Jinx had a personality.
Yeah. Oh, Jinx is the only not Storm Shadow or Snake Eyes ninja that I give a pass to. All the other created
Although like
ninjas.
Slice and Dice were just like too much.
Yeah, a
You
little
remember
bit.
Slice and Dice?
Kamakura
Oh my
and
God. Just that they would call it Slice and Dice, of course. Kamakura, I sort of remember. Did they at one point have like a robot ninja? Like they tried to get
probably
both things into one figure?
maybe. What like because then there was a whole like the bad guy. I
Mhm.
don't. I mean, see, Ninja Force is when I tapped out, so I can't even.
Exactly. And again, this maps onto the X-Men thing. Ninja Force 90, just basically a lot of weird things were happening in the 90s. Ninja Force was too much. A lot of the 90s X-Men things were too much, and some of us, Generation X kids, tapped out for a while and tried to be adults. Meanwhile, some people were imprinting
Yeah.
X-Men, the cartoon, for the rest of their lives. Now, I don't know if the same can be said about Ninja Force. I don't know
No.
if there
Well, I don't know. I
I don't know if there are
mean,
G.I. Joe fans who love Ninja Force above other things, but
there are. I mean, there are people who came to GI Joe much later than we did because they're younger than us, and then to them, the first GI Joe figure they got might have been a pink ninja, and to them that's what GI Joe is. So
We love you, Larry Hammond. Some of those ninjas were really too much.
so yeah, so I mean, it's interesting too. Just one last point about the two Marvel things that got teased.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect theme to what we had been talking about for the last couple episodes, the whole nostalgia piece, because like the Fantastic Four reveal was very much appealing to 60s nostalgia, to the really old comic book fans who remember those original versions of Fantastic Four. I think it was to bring them around and to get them excited for this movie. And then the X-Men is tying into 90s nostalgia for the millennials who
Right.
grew up on. To them, that's the version of the X-Men that's what brought them into the fandom, and that spoke to them. So it's just really curious that like maybe Marvel, who the company is trying to like reset a lot of things. Their whole
Yeah.
Phase 5 plan has kind of been upended. So, and not saying that X-Men 97, even though it's created by Marvel Studios, is not canonically part of any of the MCU stuff, but again, they're
Yeah.
tapping
No, I
into
mean, I
it.
think that's smart. Have we thought about what their interesting game might be in getting X-Men 97 to segue into live action X-Men? Or have we not thought about that?
I mean, I mean, who knows what they'll do. There is some of the stuff that they've been doing though, like the Professor X in the Doctor Strange movie was
Right.
clearly based on the cartoon version.
Yes,
He's
so
wearing the
much
green
so. Yeah.
suit in the yellow hover chair.
Yeah. And we met Beast and we met Binary in the last Marvels movie.
Right.
And yeah, it's an open question. I was just curious.
And yeah, I don't, and who's to say if these are the animated versions brought? I mean, of course, we're going to see a blue and yellow Wolverine in Deadpool. So Deadpool might
Right.
make some allusion to the animated series, I'm sure, because
Why
that's
why
just
wouldn't they? Yeah.
one last thing about Fantastic Four, and we can move on to what's nerd popping,
Oh
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
they announced the release date is July 25th, 2025.
Which is also, is this where you're going with this?
Yes, 2 weeks before, I believe July 11th, 2025 is the release date for Superman Legacy.
Wow.
They're playing chicken. Someone's going to have to move.
Interesting. You think they're playing chicken? They both can't win in a Oppen Barbie kind of way?
No, not Marvel and DC. I don't think this is a
That's funny.
Civil
Okay.
War Batman v Superman thing where Batman v Superman was announced first, and we've staked claim to the May release date because we're gonna swing hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marvel said, "Really?
Mm.
We're gonna have a Captain America versus Iron Man movie, and we'll also release in May."
Mm. Mm.
And so Batman versus Superman blinked. They moved their release date back to April and eventually March. And then,
Mm-hmm.
that's
And that had
10
an
years later, the DC cinematic universe no longer exists.
that had an effect. No, you're right there. I mean, yeah, leaving out which movie was like more watchable than the other, but
Well, that too, right?
yeah, no, that's a great scenario, a super bullish scenario. Okay, next Superman movie, and that, yeah, that'll be a big month. Sorry, be people who thought the superhero movies were going away, because that's going to be a big deal. On the other hand, I've been lightly following the Superman casting and don't have a big feeling about it anyway. I don't know if you want to remark on that, but
Oh, I'm
like,
I'm very excited. I'm still very excited for the Superman movie. I think David Cornsweet is going to be an awesome Clark and Kal-El. I love the Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor casting. And I think we did a speculation podcast several months ago where when those names were first released that I was like, already excited about that cast. I think back then it was Emma Mackey was the front runner for Lois Lane, although I think Rachel Brosnahan, who's from the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
mm,
is a good Lois. I
hmm
mean, she kind of plays a version of that like spunky, you know, Lois Lane in that show.
right, yeah.
Another time to Madam Web, Isabella Marced, who plays Anya Corazon, Spider
Oh yeah,
Woman,
yeah.
is in the Superman Legacy as Hawk Girl.
Shut up, really? Oh, I
Yeah.
see. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Superman Legacy has a lot of like other DC characters in at least cast in the film. So there's Hawk Girl's going to be in it.
Uh-huh. Tell me more. Because thank God, because I don't really like Superman that much. I'll say
Yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So
So Hawk Girl's in it.
hot girl, like that.
Nathan, shit, what's his name? The guy from Firefly.
Nathan Fillion?
Yes, is Guy Gardner.
Shut up. He's got really?
He's going to be in it.
See, I'm happy to have this information told by you to me right now, as opposed to reading about it. Tell me more.
Oh, yeah. So you're getting your like fan pop by just listening to me,
Yeah, but it's
rather
cool.
than
They've been filling this
getting
guy.
surprised when you walk into the movie into the theater and be like, oh shit, Guy
No,
Gardner's.
but it is a pop, yeah, because Gardner's a terrible character, but Nathan Fillion will be is a good idea for him. So yeah.
And the other DC Universe hero that's in the film is Eddie Gattegi. He's playing not Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Terrific. You probably know him
Mr.
best
Terrific.
as the mutant in X-Men First Class. I forget the mutant's name, but his whole mutant power is he can't die. But because he's black, he dies in X-Men First Class.
Right. He had an unfortunate
What was
arc.
it? Like it was like Darwin or something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah, a
Yeah, my
questionable
mutant
part,
power is I can't be killed.
very
Let's see
questionable
about
part of
that.
that First Class movie, but
But he's
otherwise
Mr.
pretty
Terrific.
unique. Yeah.
in
Okay.
the film. And I think the bad
Well,
guys
that's
are
terrific.
the bad guys are going to be the Authority, I think.
Shut. No, I thought The Authority was a whole separate movie.
Yeah, it is. But I think they're going to be seated in the Superman Legacy. I think they're going to do a version of that comic story where like Superman is, very much the old school kind of superhero, and I think it's Superman versus the Elite in the comics.
Right. No, there is also an actually Superman versus the Authority comic.
Right, but I think they're taking like cues from the Superman versus the Elite, because that storyline was about like the Elite were this kind of like 21st century 90s kind of extreme, kind of like the way we view superhero stuff now, like The Boys and things, where like everything is just about like super violence. I mean, it's almost like to me, and this is all speculation, it's almost like a rejection of the Snyderverse, right?
Right.
The grim dark, for grim dark's sake type of hero versus Superman, who is the throwback old school big blue Boy Scout. And I think it's about the way they superimpose against one another, like the two different styles, the two different visions for like superheroes, I think. And I could be completely wrong, but I think that's a good story concept on where James Gunn is going with Superman Legacy. But to me it's fascinating that they both they didn't pick the same release date, but they picked a release date very close to one another. And I think someone's going to have to blink, or maybe not. Maybe we can sustain two comic book movies within 2 weeks of each other.
I think the game has changed a little bit because movie theaters are in such trouble now. I still believe the Barbieheimer thing was the most significant thing that happened in the movie box office space this year, or in several years. And I think they might like that model actually better than the old model, trying to get out of each other's way. This is again speculation. I think they might like the idea that they can create hype around a binary, an opposition, as opposed to trying to hype up their own date and get more people to see both movies. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think, well, I know that's what I think it is.
Well, and I think it'll help if Superman's a good movie.
It'll help if they're both good movies.
But I mean, just because it comes out first, because the Superman movie is the one that's going to get affected, because the other movie, if in the old model, the other movie is going to eat into its box office, right? So, but if Superman is a very good movie, it should be able to sustain when Fantastic Four comes out.
Yeah, it also, I mean, and I think it would just have a fair amount of, baked in buzz, just as James Gunn is a known quantity at this point, both infamously and, and famously, whatever that is, right. It's fair to say he has enough clout that the Superman movie is an event no matter what. Even and the Marvel movie, well, anyway, nothing against Matt Shagman, but he's just not as big a deal on the internet as James Gunn is.
And to your point, is Fantastic Four a pop cultural enough event for people to want to go see? Because they've had two, batting attempts already, and both failed miserably. So,
and again, it's fucking Superman. Everyone knows Superman. No one doesn't know Superman.
Yeah.
Most people know the Fantastic Four, but no one doesn't know Superman.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I think it'll be definitely interesting. It's it's a year and a half from now, so who knows what happens between now and then. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, so there could be another deadly virus ready
oh God, you had to go
in a couple weeks. So if we are just replaying 2020 again.
Yeah, let's not hope too hard in case some shit like that does go down. we have to get through a presidential election before any of this shit happens, you realize.
Yeah.
And, a Trump administration will cancel all fun. Let's just say that because that's what they do. And they'll both be too woke for like having women in them.
Yeah.
So they'll
And
be
it won't be the
canceled.
Trump administration we have to worry about canceling Superman, because if David Zaslav is still CEO of Warner Brothers,
There's
he
that.
may just cancel the movie before it comes out, because that's a thing that Warner Brothers does
Right,
now.
for a tax reason. Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It could be you could get a massive tax write-off for not releasing Superman once they finish shooting it, and then that could, because I don't know if you follow the news, there was another Warner Brothers movie, Coyote versus Acme,
yeah, heard
which is
about
a
that.
Looney Tunes film that was finished, and actually a few months ago they had already announced, oh, we're not going to release it, and there was an uproar, and so Warner Brothers was like, oh, no, we're not going to release it on HBO Max, but we'll shop it around to other streamers and see if they'll release it.
Weird.
And apparently no one else paid the price that Warner Brothers wanted to license the film, so they've decided to cancel it anyway.
That is so gross, man. Just the amount of times you had to say price and shop in that diatribe about a cartoon movie that some people want to see and is made. Jesus.
And it's finished, right? It's completely fit. They even screened it for the cast.
A lot of us still want to see that Batgirl movie.
I definitely want to see the
whatever.
Batgirl movie, even if it's not finished. I would like to see that Batgirl movie because, I don't want Michael Keaton in The Flash to be my last
Right, exactly.
of Michael Keaton's Batman. But no, I just think it's ridiculous that, I mean, it's also weird that, to your point about like the ugliness of the commodification of art, that HBO and Warner Brothers they've been kind of, it's weird to me, my whole beef with like the whole Max streaming service to begin with.
Yes.
But now they're even like, they're whoring off all of their content anyway. And like most of the Max platform is just fucking like Discovery reality shows. Because like the Warrior series, the one that was the Bruce Lee series,
yes,
is now, it's on Netflix. They gave
it
it
moved
to Netflix.
Again, right? Yeah.
Westworld has been removed from HBO Max, and now I think it's available on like Tubi or something, but like all these great shows that are iconic for HBO are now, Sex and the City's on like Netflix. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's something is really going on there. And partially the 90 Day Fiance universe is to blame. They're made by Discovery, aren't they?
Yes, there's a bunch of Dr. Pimple Poppers that are cluttering my HBO Max.
They're the universe that is really overcoming our universe. If we're talking about Crisis on, it's the Discovery cloud antimatter thing. It's gonna destroy us all. Anyway,
Dr. Pimple Popper, it does sound like a bad Batman villain.
It does. Yeah.
Anything nerd popping? Any updates on 12 Valentines?
Well, yeah, no, I'm glad you asked. We're continuing. Please come support us at 12valentines.net or Ko-fi/Dama, DOMMAH, because as the project develops, and again, these things are in flux, we're probably going to add a song about the Suicide Squad game that I've been going on about, or, some content related to that, and major characters involving Harley and Ivy and Wonder Woman, and the very interesting interplay that those women characters have. And this is not going to be just like, you have to know DC Comics to know the song. It's a story song about the dynamic. And again, as per the crowdfunding effort, we're going to do it one way or the other. It'll be a lot better if we get some crowdfunding. It'll just be a lot better. The compressed sounds will be more compressed. The drums might be like by a person as opposed to a machine, stuff like that. And
we got a taste of the Green Lantern song last week on the podcast, and I believe you can go to our social medias to hear that isolated.
Yes, you absolutely can. So, tell me what you think about that Green Lantern thing. If it's weird or if it's great, tell me what you think. It's because it's all in flux. And again, as just to follow through on the point. So if you're the kind of person who wants to stand against all the hate that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has happened, just in principle, then support our project, just because someone has to speak out against all these guys hating on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And that's something I'll take up again at any point. Anyway, what's nerd popping with you?
You should start a hashtag Stop Suicide Squad Hate.
Right, that would be misinterpreted in so many ways. It would be like stop the suicide or stop the squad that's stopping the suicide
Oh,
or
stop the squad. Right. You're wearing an AOC t-shirt. That could also be
right.
misinterpreted.
Right. It would be like yeah.
So we were saying earlier how I should get off social media, but I want to endorse one thing for my nerd poppin', and it's that you should definitely follow Stefan Marbury on Instagram
Interesting.
because the Lunar New Year just passed, and he's been posting some awesome New Year's content on his Instagram because famously Stefan Marbury left the NBA to go play basketball in China
Mm-hmm.
and became a legend in China.
Yeah.
So much so that like he like campaigned, he capes for Chinese basketball.
Yeah.
And what's great about the content he's been posting on Instagram, he's like he speaks Mandarin like better than you or I do. He speaks
Sure.
Chinese better than you or I
At
do.
this point, one would expect, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like there's a joy about the way he interacts with fellow people in China. That's just I don't know, it's something you had
Nice.
mentioned a couple episodes back about like Black History and Lunar New Year following in the same time and everything. And I think seeing Stefan Marbury like and his joyful acceptance of living in China, there's something beautiful about it. And
That's great.
I really love like watching the reels he's posting on Instagram.
Yeah, we need stuff like that right now. Let's all get together, people. That's great. It's funny because because like he was never my favorite player. Like he was on the Knicks, right? He was
Yeah,
like
unfortunately. That's why I never liked him because I hate the Knicks.
Yeah, it was pretty good in
I didn't
there,
mind
but
him when he was on the Timberwolves with KG, but yeah,
there you go. Right.
That's what makes Jeremy Lin's story so fucking like hard to bear.
Right.
Like, Linsanity happens, and it made me buy a fucking Knicks jersey that I've since gotten rid of because
remember he won the championship as a Canadian.
the most Chinese thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for 2 weeks in 2012, I had to wear a Knicks t-shirt, and it pissed the hell out of me.
That's insane.
It was very insane.
Anyway, but yeah, second act, Stephen Marbury, love to see it. Great.
Yeah. So follow Starberry on Instagram. I'm sure he's got like a YouTube channel and things like that. But like, I've been watching his reels every night, and particularly with Lunar New Year happening, they were just really
right on.
So with that, Dominic Ma, you already gave your socials. Anything else to let people know how to follow you?
Oh, just Dom Ma and 12valentines.net, and my YouTube channel is called Melancholy Ball.
Follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color on every social media platform, and go to youtube.com/nerds of color to watch our videos. hardknockmedia.com for the podcast. Give us a rating and a review because we don't know if you're listening, and if you're not listening, we're just talking to each other. So give us a comment, which is fine. And I love chatting with you, Doc. And follow me on social media at The Real Chow on Twitter and Real Keith Chow on Instagram. That's it for Nerds of Color Hard Knock Life this week. Until next time.
We remember Jeremy Lin started as a Warrior. People forget that.
He actually started as a Dallas Maverick because he was on the Mavericks summer team.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he signed with the Warriors.
Made no splash until he was a Knick.
Right. Well, he got cut from Golden State, went to New York, and was riding the bench until what's his name? Someone got hurt.
It wasn't Stephen Marbury.
Baron Davis get hurt? And then he went off for 2 weeks.
I cannot remember.
He was the best player in the NBA for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And that was it. And then he was just mid for the rest of his career.
Yeah, but he did get a championship, so I think he had a pretty good career.
Yeah, well, he was.
You don't count those ones because he wasn't.
No, sure, it's fine. He's got a ring.
But,
I mean, he didn't do anything in that ring.
He was on the team that got the rings.
Yeah, I'm happy for him.
That counts.
I'm happy for him. What's interesting too is that it's not like he ushered in the great next era of Asian American basketball though.
Didn't? Yes, didn't. But yeah, who's gonna do that? He did as much as he could.
Come on, Jeremy.
Yeah, be better, Jeremy. You only got an A. You only got 50. Your friend over there got 60.
I mean, if Jeremy played today, maybe he would.
Now we're recycling Asian American stereotype jokes.
Yeah.
Anyway, good job. Yeah, later. Bye.